Listen, you had so much to share. I mean, I was looking at your sketches and everything, and I knew that I had to have you on my channel to talk about them.
No, man. Well, equally, I was like, this guy's the master of social media and architecture content creation. So we have to get you on. And I think, look, that's what I want to talk about today. I want to be able to kind of dive into your story, how you got to where you got to. And as far as I understand, now you're full-time content creating now, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So you go from an architecture background, education, and now
Yes.
BlessedArch full-time studio.
Yeah.
What's the story, man? Where did it start?
I mean, so, when I started BlessedArch, and it started with my YouTube channel, my Instagram handle earlier, I think I didn't even have Instagram at that time. I just had a YouTube channel and I started BlessedArch back in my second year of college. This is 2014, right? And at that time, I think I didn't think about making architectural content or anything near what I make right now. At that time, I was inspired by YouTubers like Singh. There was Tyler Oakley. There was Connor Franta. So I was looking at all of these YouTubers, Joe Sugg, and they used to make like fun content, right? Just having fun, making random things, vlogs. So that is precisely the kind of things that I wanted to do. And especially Lily, this kind of skits that she did. I still remember that One Love Superwoman. I used to be able to do it. I can't anymore, like her style. But
Wait,
I think,
I know nothing about Lily. So
yeah.
what were her videos about?
So Lily Singh is basically, she's an Indian Canadian YouTuber. And now she has moved on to NBC. She has her own show there. Uh, but basically she makes, it's all comedy. It's all comical stuff. And it was also very, very relatable because even though she's always grown up in Canada, she does have an Indian heritage. So she, half of her videos used to be in Punjabi. So it was
Ah,
all amazing.
so
Like
it's
it's
comedy
relatable.
architect. So it's comedy
It,
architecture.
it's completely comedy, nothing related to architecture.
Nothing to do. So this is your wider kind of inspiration, nothing to do with architecture.
Yeah, nothing to do with architecture at all. I mean, I think to this day, the people I get inspired by are mostly, they have nothing to do with architecture. They're just people who love to talk about things. One of my biggest inspirations is Trevor Noah. And that is why, a lot of my videos infuse that kind of humor. And, I love when he connects with with his audience, talks deeply, and yet can make you laugh at the same time. So I think those are the kind of things that I try to bring into my content.
Okay, so tell me what you were like as a kid then. It sounds like, there's all these people who love to perform and they love to kind of put a show on and entertain. They get real joy from that. Were you like that?
Yeah. Yes. So I have always been, I used to take part in all of my theater things that happened in school as well. I used to go to dance classes, go to dance shows. Uh, I wanted to sing, but I couldn't. I just didn't have the voice for it. But any function that used to happen in school, any public speaking thing, anything that used to happen, I used to be there. And I think a lot of it has to do with my parents as well, is because they also encouraged me to go and participate in things. And I just sort of uh, kept doing it. And theater was one of the biggest things. I think in my last year of school is when I finally got to play a part uh, where I was a character in the theater production. Otherwise, I was always a background dancer. And we used to have like proper uh, theater productions that use musicals that usually you do not see anywhere in Jaipur. Like my school was really good that way. We had like Wicked one year. We did Mamma Mia one year. So it was all great shows that we did. And I had a lot of fun. And I used to be that kid. I used to always be there, loving acting, loving just performing there.
What was that role that you got that you loved?
So it in our final year we did Ramayan, and is what I was so Ramayan is the epic tale which ends up in Diwali. And so in Ramayan there was Ravan, who was the villain. I was his brother, his good brother, like the only good brother he had. I played that character.
So this is the villain who like he has like 10 faces, right?
Yes.
And you were his brother, who's
Yeah,
actually a
I
good
was
character.
Vibhishan, who was the good one, who was the only good one in all of the, supposedly in all of in
Ah,
Lanka.
brilliant. Okay. That's really fascinating. So, like, I think in some ways I can relate, but it's a slightly different backstory. So, I didn't really feel and I didn't really recognize that I like to perform until I got a bit older and I started putting the clues together. I'm like, oh crap. I love to perform because I wanted to go into film school before architecture school. But weirdly enough, I feel like my urge to kind of perform and to kind of communicate in that way was probably because I didn't get enough attention as a kid. But
It is deep rooted somewhere. There is
right.
some, yeah. There's obviously something there.
So
Whenever
are we
there's a
all?
need for attention, there is some lack of it.
So I'm just trying. I mean, it's a deep question to start all of this by, but are we deep down insecure? Is that how we get into content creation, or is it for everyone?
That is a good question. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I think uh, I would say I am a lot less than what I was when I was younger. Because, through as I've grown up and through doing what I do, having the opportunities that I have, I've been able to work on myself more and more to sort of develop more and more as a person. I know I still have insecurities, a lot of them, but I think it does stem from that, this urge to sort of showcase and to sort of, I think it does come from, it originates from a place of insecurity for a lot of people. But I don't think, even though it starts from there, it doesn't need to drive you. Uh, it's the same, you go to a gym. The reason you went to the gym might be loads of different things, from something positive to something very, very negative. But once you're in it and once you're doing it, your drive may not be what you started off with. Your motivation, because as you evolve as a person, your motivations change, your reasons for doing things change because you have evolved. So I think it does start from that place, for a lot of people, for a lot of celebrities. But I think it evolves along the way for everybody, and I think it should. It's a good thing that it evolves.
Well, look, I love the answer, and I think it's easy to be. I think we're also very self-critical people as well as content creators, and actually, I think all architecture students can be very self-critical because they spend their entire education being critiqued at
True.
regular intervals. So, well, look, I think you're right. You get to a point in your content creation journey, it has now become something serious. It has now become, you're now in a position to really provide value and information and knowledge. And, it would almost be wrong of you to stop doing what you're doing now, because now the people are invested. And
True.
it's crazy, man. Like, you've got 80,000 YouTube subscribers now. You've got
Yeah.
3.4 million views on YouTube. You've got 65,000 Instagram followers. I don't know how many TikTok. I don't really go on TikTok, but
TikTok is banned in India. I mean,
oh
I
no.
wanted to sort of create content there, but it got banned.
Well, you're not doing too bad on everything else, man. You had a reel as well that went viral, got like 2.4 million views. So
Yeah.
so now you're at this point where, as we said, now you're doing this full time. What does it take for someone to do this as a hobby? And then what is the life like for someone who's doing this as a full-time job? What's the difference and how do you transition?
So, I'll be honest, a lot of it has to do with the economy aspect of it. And that is what changes when you're doing it full time to when you're doing it as a hobby. I wouldn't even say as a hobby. As a hobby, I was doing it when I was in college. After that, I think I'm just doing it part time till I could do it full time. So, as a hobby, you would say till that point where you do not, you don't need to worry as much about getting the numbers, about getting, the revenue in, about getting to a certain point. It is about the fun of creating content and just showcasing it to people, which is something that has to come back later into your journey after you've dealt with the numbers and views and everything. And it has to come back where, you need to create content that actually excites you, makes you happy, that you would love to create. Because if you want to do something full time for all your life, you need to make sure you're doing something that you enjoy, or you need to love to enjoy what you're already doing. One of the two things you need to do. So, the difference is, when I was doing it part time and I had a job, so I graduated in 2018. And so basically the story is, I graduated in 2018, and, I came back home from my internship, and I talked to my father and I said, listen, I want to sort of try and see if I can do something in content creation. And this is what Lily did as well in her journey.
Wait. You told your dad?
Yeah.
And can I just ask, surely your dad was like, what the hell is content creation?
Yeah. He still doesn't get what I do. He just knows I get money every month. So he's like, okay.
He probably said, I'm doing content creation right now. I'm giving you the content of my words.
Yeah. I mean, it was very weird to explain to people what I really wanted to do. It in a lot of ways still is. People don't really understand where I earn money from. So I have to explain to them, because, the thing that everybody goes to is, everybody loves the content that I create. Everybody's curious about where I'm actually earning from, which is a question that I think it generates curiosity for everybody. And so I do answer that for everybody. But basically, so as I told my father that I wanted to do content creation and I want to create videos, he understood that I wanted to do something in a filmmaking space, right? So I told him, you know what, give me a year, like 1 year. If I cannot make something work, then I would go back to start pursuing architecture. And that was the plan. I was by the end of the year, this is 2018, right? So 2018 May is when my deadline was ending, and I was completely prepared to sort of, I was like, I've given it my all, I've tried my best, so now I'll just go and pursue architecture. I was still applying for, jobs in a content creation space, but mentally I was preparing to sort of transition into a conventional architectural job. And I think just 10 days before my deadline is when I got my job at Trip Machine Company. Again, a company that has nothing to do with architecture. And how they found me is also, it's basically, I contacted somebody who I knew as a content creator randomly on Instagram. And because he had posted a story, I've left so-and-so company and would be going for something new. I contacted him that I wanted to do something in content creation space. He said, send me your work. I sent him the BlessedArch profile on Instagram. He said, listen, give me a day. Let me see if I can do something for you. The next day, he told me he has a friend who wants to offer you a job. I talked to him then, and I think 2 days later, I had that job. So it was fast.
So this was a content creation job?
Yeah, this was a proper content creation job, nothing to do with architecture. So Trip Machine is basically...
Give me some clarity on what the deal was with your dad. So you're about to finish your architecture education, you're about to hand in, but you said, so that was the deal. You said to your dad, I'm going to just do this architecture stuff, but you didn't tell him, or you told him that you're going to apply to this other job?
No, so I didn't tell him that I was going to do architecture stuff. I told him I wanted to do something in the content creation space. So to me, I think at that time I was also looking for jobs that were not necessarily in the architectural sphere at all, or within that vicinity. I just wanted to do something that where I could create content, where I could work with videos, edit them, shoot them. And
what year did you do this application? Was this in your final year, third year, or what is it? How does it work?
This is after I've graduated. This year is after I've graduated. I took like a drop year to sort of figure things out.
Is that fourth year, fifth year? What is that?
So no, so we have a 5-year architecture college. So after finishing 5 years, after graduating, then is when I took the year off, and
Got you.
to sort of try and apply for jobs everywhere.
So by
I
equivalent, that would be master's final year in the UK system, right? Because
Yeah,
master's is fifth year 4 and 5 is master's.
yeah.
So you'd
So
done pretty much
after
done your master's, and then you
yeah,
go and apply for this content creation job.
yeah. So I mean, I had, to be honest, after when I got the job as well, I was making supposedly more than what my friends would be making as architects. So my dad was happy. Like, at least he's so in that sense he was happy. I still a lot of times they're like, go design buildings. What are you doing? So I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. But yeah, so I think that year sort of ended in me getting a job at Trip Machine. And I think we start this question with that part-time, full-time thing. Um, so while at Trip Machine, I was doing BlessedArch part-time. So because I was doing Trip Machine full-time. And so my schedule used to be, I used to wake up and and because I don't have a laptop, I have a desktop, which I took to Trip Machine company when I went there. So I used to go to the office at 7 a.m. in the morning, and I used to return by like 11 p.m., 12 p.m. The office timings were 10 to 6:30. That is when I did Trip Machine work. Before and after is when I did Blessed Arc work. And that went on till the pandemic started.
Okay, so you're still in love with the profession to some degree, or was
Yeah.
this kind of you were imprisoned by your previous passion? Do you know what I mean? As in, like, is this
Yeah.
were you just like, okay, this is something I just know about, so my content creation is going to be about architecture? Or were you like, I love architecture and I love the possibilities of looking at architecture in a different way, therefore I'm going to create content that explores that? What was the passion there? Where's the fire?
I was getting uh, more of an audience from an architectural background when I used to do videos on architecture. I think that is where the path that I started from. But then as I went on to it, the best subjects in architecture school when we were studying for me used to be history, or there was a subject called human settlement and planning, where we used to study the human civilization and cities all through time. And that was one of my favorite subjects, because we used to study so much about design, about what actually affects design, what are the factors that affected not just a building but a city level at grand. And I used to love that subject. And I think that curiosity, after I saw that I'm creating architectural content and people are enjoying it, uh, that is where then I also brought in, this is what I loved about architecture and studying about architecture. And so I would bring in these things into my content, wherein I can also uh, completely enjoy what I'm doing. So like, and that is why when you see on That Blessed Human, I also create a different kind of just goofy content and funny content, because again, there's a lot more inside of me that I want to explore. It's not just architecture, but it's just that people respond so much, and again, there are not many people doing what I'm doing. And
It also sounds like, because I'm really interested in really finding what the passion is, what the fire is, because I know there is a fire, there is a deep passion, because you cannot do this day in, day out. I can't do any of the Instagram stuff I'm doing. I can't do these podcasts unless there's a burning fire. And for me, it's the idea of exploring the multidisciplinary potential of architecture. So I love to speak to people on the fringe who are using their architectural education and they're doing something new or something exciting, and they're opening up the kind of economic playfield, which you are a great representation of. Somebody who's gone up to their master's level in architecture, and now you're taking over the social media world and the niche of architecture in social media. So it sounds like you were really passionate about this aspect of architecture, which is very universal, which is the idea of looking at the story of humans and kind of inspiring people about the effect of architecture on humans. And I think that in of itself is something that can be relatable to somebody who's a biologist, somebody who's an anthropologist, somebody who is a retail worker or a Starbucks worker. So is that the passion?
So before YouTube boomed for me, I think it was Instagram where I had started gaining a lot more traction. And this was 2018. This was the year when I was sort of figuring things out. And basically, I started creating the 1 minute facts, which I still do to this day, not as religiously as I did back then. I used to create a fact each and every day back then. But basically, it was things to do with architecture that universally people would be curious about, not just architecture students, right? With a lot of content that I create, I try and find ways to make it appealing to not just people within the architecture industry, but people in general out there. Because again, there's a lot to explore in the field of architecture, which is genuinely amazing to hear. I keep telling my mom things about different things, and she loves to hear the where the design came from, what were the inspirations. She looks at certain things and she's like, what the hell is that? So,
yeah, I saw your mom's video.
Reaction video
where you did Mum versus Zaha Hadid.
Yeah.
And I think this is the burden of any family member who lives with architectural practitioners, is they end up becoming very qualified and very advanced thinkers. So I saw your mum giving very good critique of the buildings.
Yeah. So my mom always has had, because she's very honest about what she's feeling, right? If she even tries to be deceitful, it's visible on her face. So you can tell that there's something that she's not saying that she wants to. And, her thought about architecture, again, it comes from a general person level, because again, she is not involved in the process of designing and creating buildings. She is involved. She inhabits the spaces. And so she's then looking at the spaces as a person who needs to inhabit, who needs to maintain it, who will be looking at these things. And I think that perspective is the reason I sort of brought mom on. And that is the reason I try to make my content universal, to just bring it to people who would actually experience the spaces.
Yeah, your mom is like a gauge for how good your content is going to be to the lay person. And I love that, because I'm the same with my wife. So whenever I do a drawing, because for me, it's the drawings that do quite well on social media. So if I do a drawing, I show her first thing. She needs to see it. And if she goes, wow, then I know it's going to do well. And, we're going to talk about the whole superficial aspect as well to now, that we have to battle with as content creators, because architecture is a very thoughtful subject. And there's a lot of criticism of people who do, for example, drawings just for the sake of standout crazy drawings, or people who do clickbaiting on social media and YouTube, and they take away from the so-called kind of value of architecture by doing these kind of populist things. But it seems to me that we have very similar driving factors. I think there's a level of value to also attribute to people like you who are doing a lot of work to make architecture as a field accessible to the wider public. And there's a lot of benefit in that, because architects and architecture as a field has struggled to really explain its value to people. And I think that's why we often find ourselves in financial difficulties working for practices, because it's very easy for people to say, we demand higher pay, but a practice and a business is not just going to give you more money if it doesn't have money. The money has to come from the people. So if it's coming from the people, how are you going to get people to give you more money? You need to raise your value. What do you think about that whole idea of the kind of the value you contribute to the field of architecture without actually being in the field of architecture?
So again, making it accessible to all, I think it generates more curiosity within people with the kind of content that I create. And one of the primary reasons for using humor in my content, wherever it is on YouTube or it's on Instagram, wherever I create content, I try and use humor as a tool because, again, with humor, you're able to connect with what you're seeing and what you're hearing much better. And that's why a lot of my friends who from school and other friends that I have who don't study architecture, right? A lot of them religiously watch my 1 minute facts because they just find them entertaining, right? So you getting to learn about buildings all over the world. You're getting to learn about upcoming solutions to challenges that we have in our society, climate change being one of them, and what architects are doing. Again, it's a very serious thing, and it also helps people understand how designers are helping solve the problems of today. Because, again, everybody needs to come together to solve the problems that we are having, and again, making them reach the masses with humor so that they find it more engaging. The point of humor is just so that people sort of stick to the end and listen to the whole message. I don't know if you know who Sadhguru is. So he's
Yeah,
he's
I think
been
so. He's quite a popular kind of spiritual
he's
master or something.
he says a lot of times whenever he's sort of giving his sermons, and he says, the only reason I am speaking so elaborately, making these jokes in between, and just talking endlessly about different things, is so that I can make you to learn to sit at one place for hours.
Wow.
Right?
So this is
So yeah.
clickbait.
So the humor, the everything is so that, that information goes through. The information that I'm trying to sort of break through to people. A lot of people tell me, if you're making videos about such serious things, maybe you shouldn't put humor in it. And I'm like, but you know what? It wouldn't connect with people. It won't make me happy making a content that is just, I can tell you, this is looking at the camera, like, this is this, and this. I can talk like that, or I can be completely energetic. Did you know? And I can talk like that. People thrive on that energy. They again, this is the world that we have. You can try. The world has become very 15-second video-y, right?
Okay, so
The
let's talk
shorter
about that.
format.
Let's talk about the Insta world we live in, the Insta culture, because we now
Yes.
operate in that market. And I love the analogy you gave of Satnam, because is it Satnam? Did I say that right?
Sadhguru.
Satguru, because it's clickbait. He just described clickbait in the most spiritual and wise way, to make somebody sit down and listen. And it's a very difficult, there's a very fine line, isn't there? Because on one hand, clickbait can be seen and is a very dangerous thing to kind of lure people in to watch something or do something. And especially if there's a platform where every single swipe, everybody is grasping your attention and they need your attention, you can get lost in the world of swiping. So, I deal with this issue, but you are a veteran of this game. So, clickbait is also important. We would not survive in this world without clickbait. What are your thoughts?
True. I mean, it's absolutely true, because in a sense, again, this is what I tell to people when a lot of colleges nowadays want to invite me to speak, or to a college invite me to be a juror, an external juror to them. A lot of my professors, other colleges are inviting me to be, to review portfolios. And this is one of the things I tell them, I'd be honored to come. I'd be honored to do this. But in my head, and this is what I genuinely feel, just because I have garnered an audience, and just because I am great at editing, creating content, creating great scripts about those content, it doesn't really qualify me for in a lot of ways, judging portfolios or judging designs, or just to speak. A lot of colleges invite me, and I am genuinely stuck in the fact that, what do you want me to speak about? I can talk about my journey as a content creator, because I personally think that is the only thing I have a mastery in. When I approach architecture, it's always been just out of curiosity. So I think when you talk about clickbait, when you talk about it is, the world is coming to a stage where where these shorter format videos, where even information that people take a lot of time to sort of explain to other people, now they have to do it in these 15 seconds. I think Mattheus was once talked about it in his podcast, and he talked about the fact that you know uh, he creates these 15-second architecture knowledge, he calls it. And the world has become that. It's a wave. I would just say this, it's a wave. Whether you want it to happen, whether you don't want it to happen, it's happening. Whether you the kind of thumbnails that you create for your videos, the kind of titles that you put in, the kind of content that you're creating, if they catch people's attention, you get more viewers. If they don't, you don't. And it is as simple as realizing that there is a wave coming. Do you want to be a surfer and ride that wave or not? Having it again becomes about the individual. It is about what your motivation is to sort of ride that wave. Again, as I said, when people call me and I tell them, just because I'm creating content doesn't qualify me to as an expert in the field of architecture. For me, it is much more coming from a place of curiosity than coming from a place of knowing it all. And that is why I turn these things down again. So I think as a creator, as somebody in this community, it is my responsibility to understand what I'm doing, what effects what I'm doing will have, right? And then riding that wave with that responsibility, which is a very personal thing. It depends on creator to creator. It depends on people to people.
It really is personal, and I love hearing your perspective on it, because I have a very different perspective. And it's like, I think everybody's very quick to jump on the negative aspects of everything, because it's easy to look at things negatively. It's much harder to look at the positives, and it's much harder to think deeply, because it is harder to think deeply. It's scientifically harder to use your brain. Were you about to say something?
Yeah, in my content, I genuinely try and not talk about negative aspects of something. I mostly talk about positives of things, and instead of talking about things that I don't like, and in not even one particular project, if suppose there are things that I don't like, I try and turn it around to look at things that I do like, and sort of try and promote that.
But even before, even before we talk about, your type of content, just talking about this clickbait stuff, and the idea of, we live in a consumer-driven market anyway, right? At the moment, the way I see it is, you imagine in the medieval times, or like in the olden days, when you walk, even now in some places, you'll walk through a market where there's fruit and there's pottery and there's spices and there's somebody selling clothes, and big market. People go there because they know that's where the real value is, that's where the commodities are. And when those people would walk through the market, what would happen? And what does happen? From every corner, you've got some guy going, come and buy my strawberries, come and buy my clothes. Yeah, I've got the best deal for you. Come and see this, come and see that. They'll throw stuff in your face. I've been to markets where things get volatile. Once I was driving through a market in Karachi, and we just were talking about getting some food, and someone had got the curry bag. It was like in a bag, and came to the window, and it popped in my face, and I got spicy hot curry in my eyes as a young kid. And I thought, this is crazy. But I think the wider point I'm trying to make is, wherever the value is, there's going to be intense competition for attention. So no matter what you do, no matter what you do to try and avoid it, no matter what, this whole market analogy, this whole market-driven, consumer-driven market is going to exist in some form. And I think just because we live in this era of technical, digital innovation, where now we're entering the metaverse, these are just the ways, and the unfortunate ways. I think the phone has a lot. I think if we're going to blame stuff, we need to blame this device that sticks to our thigh every second of the day. Because I think it's not so much us trying to compete for attention in the market. It's more the access to this device, which I think needs to be moderated, not so much what happens when you go on the device, because I think that's natural. So for me, it's like, we are in this world, me and you, we operate in this market, but we have to throw stuff into people's faces. Otherwise, there's no future here.
True.
So
I don't remember where I heard it, but I remember I heard it at some place. The world wars, one of the reasons they ended, and everybody sort of, we don't fight as extensively all over the world anymore, is because we have developed ways to communicate, to talk, we've created these markets that people can access all over the world. That is why one of the primary reasons there is still some sort of order on this planet. Before YouTube, before Instagram, I don't think the world was as connected. Imagine going through the COVID pandemic without having YouTube, Instagram, Netflix, Amazon Prime. I mean, it would also might be a good thing, because a lot of people might just, start working on themselves, meditating more, exercising more. But again, these open markets have brought in, with the downsides, have brought in a lot of value to everybody's life. I mean, you and me are here communicating because there's this open market, because Zoom as a platform wanted to create a product that could compete with other products, create this platform where you can talk to each other. And again, it's coming in and the features keep coming in because, again, people are competing against each other. That competition, again, also drives you to be better. Unfortunately, it also drives you to be a better marketeer.
But why is that unfortunate? That's a good thing, in my opinion.
I think Elon Musk said it, or I don't know who said it, but the greatest minds of the 21st century are working towards thinking how to make you click on more ads. That is the only downside that I see, that, he is true in a way that, you're using all the potential that you have to now just get to catch more people's attention, instead of actually doing things that might help our planet. But I think
here's the predicament, because you are successful, Rishabh, because you provide value. And this is my view on it. You would not survive. You would not reach where you reach right now with those beautiful red and purple lights behind you if you did not provide value to people. Yeah. So yes, you're right. You're also facilitating an ultra capitalist kind of system to drive ads into our eyes every 2-3 minutes. But I still don't think that's our responsibility. I don't think that's
again, it comes, as I said, these are the waves. This is something my mom tells me. She tells me sometimes, people who come to your channel are so well dressed. Why aren't you wearing shirts and like proper blazers and doing? I'm like, Mom, they don't. One, what I'm wearing is good enough. Two, they do not come to sort of look at what I'm wearing. They come to hear the conversations. They come to hear the what we have to talk about. The reason you are focusing more on what I'm wearing is because you're not interested in what the architect is talking about. She's like, yeah, that's true. So I think, I mean, as you said, without that value, I wouldn't have the audience that I have. But at the same time, I mean, again, with adding value, it is also about understanding how to maneuver in this capitalistic society. As I said, it is what it is. I, as an individual creator, know that I need to provide more value, and I try and create content that can be helpful to people in their journeys, that can be something that you can learn from, or is something that is just curious. I mean, why do architects wear black as a video? It's just out of plain curiosity. So I think
I just realized I'm wearing black.
Yeah. So these are things that again, as I said, it is an individual creator's prerogative what they create about what they're sort of promoting in the world. But the baseline is the same. You can dance however way you want, but the way you dance is by moving your hands and legs. Like the basic body movements you have to learn, and then you can dance in whichever style you want, which some people may like, some people may not like. But
Yeah.
so understanding and understanding that this is the world that it is, at least right now, right? So we might one day have a world where people are watching content or consuming any kind of content, not just architectural, just based on the value they would provide to you, and not based on uh random gimmicks or just, I don't know. But
But
to
that,
be
but that,
honest, I don't
where,
think,
but where,
I
how
don't
can
think
that
that
happen?
I can't see that world happening now,
No, but
to
look,
be honest.
let's look at it from this way, right? We're young. We don't know we don't know how the world works
Yeah,
properly. We're not
true.
old wise men who've lived 5, 6 lifetimes. And I think it's very easy to just jump on the bandwagon when people say this is wrong. And suddenly we're like, yeah, this is wrong. But look, you go back to like the most humble way people were sharing information in the world, and it's like it's a book.
Yeah,
It's a book, right? Now, even books, all the way back to the olden days, they had to have titles that stood out, that were catchy. This is a human nature to be able to
yeah,
create information and value and then market it. And the
true.
marketing style is driven by the consumer behavior. So if the consumer behavior is to always be on the digital space scrolling, you have to make content that will match that behavior. So
True.
this is why I say, like, as people contributing to this market, we have to play by the rules the market has. And unless you want to live a nihilistic life where you say F the world, I don't want to take part, then there is some level of just get on with it. And at the end of the day, you can look at things in a very negative way, but you can also look at it in this way, right? Which is, why don't we look at businesses? Think about any business. Every business has to create some sort of value or service. Then they have to market it. And
Yeah,
we often get scared as content creators. I've seen people where they're like, and I know it's a very difficult thing. I wrote a piece about this, that it can feel draining, vacuous, and kind of almost cringeworthy to constantly be promoting yourself. Because as a content creator, unless you've become a full enterprise of a big company, you are essentially just promoting yourself,
yeah.
especially if the content is you in your face. And I'm sure you felt the cringeworthy moments where you're like, oh, like all I do is post stuff about my own self. And it's a difficult line to kind of draw. But the way I look at it is, we're not self-promoting as much as we're actually just self-documenting. Because the real
Yeah,
value and the real way we should look at it is, look, I have something to say, and I know, because I've said it consistently for a little while, that people find it valuable. And if
yeah,
people find it valuable, I then feel that there is a responsibility on me to keep providing them with this value. And guess what? I'm able to get some income from it eventually, or I have income from it, and I can support my family. That is such a good thing.
I mean, to be honest, I think, look at Oprah. She was one of the biggest in the television industry when she had her show on. Uh, Again, there were a lot of times where she even admits herself a show was problematic, because again, she was playing into the format. But again, her show, the reason she is who she is today is because with the platform that she had and she created, she was able to provide value to the world. The reason I love to watch Trevor Noah to this day is not just because he's telling me the news. He is also, with that news, giving me insights, giving me opinions from the other side, and doing it in a way that I connect with. It is the value that he adds to that piece of news that is everywhere, is what makes me want to go to him again and again. Uh, so I think in that sense, it is about just developing that voice and understanding what that voice wants to say about this particular aspect. And if the main motive in a lot of ways is, I personally think, if it is just curiosity or if it is helping people, more and more people connect with you. Obviously the negative is also true. If just putting people down, I have seen a lot of creators who are either, I mean, they're constantly, I think you have to put the volume really low, because either they're constantly shouting, or it's constantly about something negative. I usually try and not watch such channels, because again, it doesn't add value to my life, but I know loads and loads of people do watch. uh, it's the difference between watching something that adds value versus watching something that's just plain entertainment. uh,
Yeah, no, that's
and
awesome.
what a lot of people do very smartly is sort of try and bring those two together. Is bring, I think Hassan Minaj did that in his show, brought in entertainment with the knowledge. uh, where you're constantly watching his show, you're laughing, and you're constantly the graphics are amazing, everything is popping in your face, it's beautiful to look at, it's funny to hear. At the same time, you're learning about different things. There is value to what you're watching, it's not just entertainment. So I mean, there's this, I think and that is the space that I want to sort of go beyond architecture into more design fields as well, but stay in the same sphere of providing information and knowledge with a value of entertainment.
Yeah, it's lovely to hear this, and you know what it makes me think of? You describing Trevor Noah, Hassan Minaj, and the subsequent kind of insecurities we're talking about, because we're trying to kind of navigate ourselves around some of the criticisms that we probably hear and we probably know about when it comes to content creation. Is part of me feels that we're just on auto drive, that we're the type of people who communicate in a way that once we find something of value, we have this intense urge to be able to share it. And I think if you if you rewind through history and you go to, like, let's just say me and you were in medieval times, or let's say we were in 10th century, whatever, living in the 10th century, what would we be doing? And I love to kind of think about that question. I like to think about things in terms of history. Is like, would we be orators? Would we be standing on the street trying to convey messages of news to the people? Would we be writers? Would we be philosophers? Would we be artists? And I think we have to also try and figure out, like, there is a place for content creation in the world we're living in right now, to not be seen as this kind of negative thing. And I think in architecture, there's much more of a emphasis on being classy and being humble and being modest and these things. And to be honest, nearly all the content creators I've met, they're actually the most modest and humble people I know. They just have a burning passion to be able to just pass on information. And I think we get to a point now where we are facilitators, because we had a passion to go so deep into something to the point in which we're kind of overflowing with information that it has to be given to other people. And we got to a point where now we're in a position to facilitate more value and more knowledge and more entertainment. And I'll just make this final point on what you said about entertainment, because you were talking about entertainment and knowledge or value as separate things. But many people, myself included, I need entertainment as a type of value for me. It is valuable for me to sit there and be entertained to some degree.
I mean, I see your point where you're also saying, if for a lot of people, the knowledge that I was referring to is also in a way entertainment for a lot of people, and it doesn't need to be. And that those are the kind of people who come to me and tell me it doesn't need to be all funny, it doesn't need to be all flashy, it doesn't need to be what it is. I mean, it's not a lot of people that come to me, but some. And again, to me, it is about getting that thing out to majority of people. You and me are interested about a lot of buildings in this world. My mom and dad are not. If I want my mom and dad to be curious about that particular building, I need to put it in a way that would appeal to my mom and dad. And to me, and for that a separate layer of entertainment is added onto the information that you and me would generally find entertaining. But now with the added layer of jokes, with these lights, with my better mic, it just, my mom and dad engage with that content much better as well.
But this is why I say we are communicators. You know, I sometimes don't like the word content creation, the phrase content creation, because
it's also very, very broad now.
Yeah, like what the heck, like creating content.
Anything is content.
We all do that. Ants do that. You know, dogs do that. They create content on the street, and you have to pick it up and put it in the bin. So it's like, I think we're communicators. I think that's our primary role, because we're constantly improving communication as well. I mean, that's one thing I've noticed is, I think the more confidence I had in communicating in my young age was actually what enabled me to go down this route in the first place. I had an architecture tutor who messaged me to come and do a talk at the university, and he was saying, "You were always good at communicating." And I thought, I wish he said that you were always good at design. But then I thought, wait a minute. I was like, you know what? It's I'm taking that as a compliment, because for me, fundamentally, architecture as well is communication. You know, and that's why I take a lot of pride in drawing, because drawing is a type of communication. You're communicating your ideas through drawing format. But the question I have for you is now, you know, kind of bringing it back to where you see yourself in the field of architecture. And as we said at the beginning, you are now full-time communicator on social media, and you're not necessarily working in practice, right? So where do you see yourself as, in terms of a label or a practitioner? What are you?
I mean, I call myself a content creator. I know it's a broad term, but I think by the way, my father got me to extend my qualification, and I've got it done. Like, I still am a licensed architect. My license had lapsed. He was like, "Listen, get it back." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm still a qualified architect in that sense. But
let me ask you another question to help this, because I think the better question to ask, because I think it's obvious. It was maybe a bad question, because you are a content creator and you are a qualified architect. But I guess a better question would be, do you think architects, with the quotation marks, need to be people who just create buildings? Or can the role of the architect be something more than that?
Obviously, as an architect, as a professional, what you're doing is creating buildings. But with those buildings, then having the kind of impact that is having, you are creating societies, you're creating change, you're creating a lot more than the building itself. But again, your job at that place was, again, to create that building. It all started from that building that became into what it is today. So as a full-fledged architect, I think, again, you're focusing on and again, I think your focus mainly should be on creating that project. And I think through that project is those ripples start, and you become much more than just somebody who creates buildings, to somebody who creates, I mean, even though a lot of people don't like Frank Gehry, a lot of times I think his buildings are a little, but with the Guggenheim Museum, he rejuvenated the economy of that place, and he created that dying industrial city into a booming tourist destination. It was his building that did that, his design that did that. So in that sense, he became much more than just the designer of that building. In a much more practical sense, all he is the designer of that building. But in a broader sense, he's much more than that. Coming further into people who might not design buildings as architects, to sort of create projects or do something the way I am doing it. I don't know if there's a label for it. I don't define myself as an architect or introduce myself as an architect to people, because to me, in my head, again, it goes back to that definition of designing buildings or designing spaces, which I am not currently doing. Right. primarily the reason I stick to the if there has to be a label, I stick to the label of a content creator, because in a very practical sense, that is all I'm doing. But in creating the kind of content that I'm creating, I realize I am inspiring people all over the world to pursue architecture, to pursue a certain kind of architecture, to think about what they want to do after they graduate, to look at different practices all over the world. I know the impact that the content is having. I know what ripples I am creating. I am very aware of that. But again, in a very practical sense, I would come back to the definition of a content creator, because at my end, as you said, 80,000 people, I can't even fathom what that looks like. To me, I just have a camera.
I think that's like 2 tennis stadiums. No, I think that's
Imagine,
like 4 tennis stadiums.
listen, if there were 4 tennis stadiums in front of me, I don't know what would happen to me at that point. But right now,
tutty on the floor.
right now in front of me, there's just a camera. I am talking to a camera in a room lit with lights. That's what it is. That is what I'm doing in a very real sense. Yeah. Right now I'm talking to you.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
So in a very practical sense, if you look at it, that and putting labels onto things, put them in very logically, as me as a content creator, as an architect, and I'm talking to a camera. In a very real sense, I am actually communicating to the rest of the world. I am in the field of architecture in a way that I am not actively participating in it, but in my observation of it, I am also inspiring and creating what future architecture might look like.
You're influencing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, wow. Okay. So now we're left here and we're going to end soon. So I just want to thank you so much, by the way, because you've made me, by the way, every episode, my aim is to learn something new, obviously, but also to change my mind on something. So I like to bring people on the show who I might have difference of opinion with, and then I can change my mind. But fundamentally, the aim is to look at architecture as a wider field of expertise and skills, and then think about where the profession is probably going in the future and where it's going now. And, we've said communicator, we've said content creator, we've said influencer. But now I'm starting to think, based on what you've just been telling me, and relating it to the stuff I'm doing too. I know, and it's not a humble thing to say, to some people, but I want to be straightforward. And in some ways, you're an educator. You're kind of entering the role of, when people become tutors after, they go and they practice a little bit of architecture, they get qualified, and they're like, this is not for me. Sitting down and drawing a building and doing plans is not for me. No, thank you. I don't want to draw toilets and doors. I want to go and inspire the next generation and give them fuel, give them tips, make it easier for them, and maybe even widen the scope of what they can do as professionals. Because for me, I was not happy with going and sitting in an office and designing toilet details. I want there to be a different future. So let's go and create that different future.
Yeah.
So you're making me now see this in a whole different way. And I don't know, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't focus on the educator part. It is all about understanding the fact that even when you reach a certain place in your life, and whatever place that might be, if anybody reaches a certain level, the only way they stay good at what they're doing, and the only way they stay very humble about what they're doing, and understanding there's a lot of factors that have come into play to for them to be able to do what they're doing, is to focus solely on what they are doing. Is, again, in the fact that I'm inspiring people. I don't create content and talk to architects and talk to when I created the video with you, my focus completely was not on, okay, how will this inspire people, and how will this educate people, and how will this, my sole focus at that point, because I knew that is what is required of me, is to be curious about your drawings, is to ask questions that I have about your drawings, because I know at the end those are the kind of questions that people ask. Those are the kind of things that people will be curious about. The curiosity, the education, the inspiration, the influence is supposed to be secondary to the action that I'm performing, and the action that I'm performing is supposed to be the most important thing to me. So that is basically what mostly I focus on, is what I am doing. I am aware and conscious of the what that creates as a byproduct, and what that means to a lot of people at large. But again, at the end, to me, it again comes back to me in a room with camera, just doing things that I'm curious about, doing things that I'm inspired about, and that then ripples down to creating the effect that it does.
Yeah, but the thing is, you've only reached that position because you chipped away, you kept trial and error. What is going to work? What is going to work?
Yeah.
When you saw what worked, I think you have to be cognizant of the fact that, okay, this is going to work. This is going to inspire people. And I completely agree with you. No, nobody sits down and writes on the piece of paper, okay, inspiration topic 1, or how to or okay, this will be extremely motivating. I think people, when we plan the content, it's very task specific, it's very niche, it has to be focused on your passion, and it has to be focused on the value subject. So 100% agree. But I think I appreciate
it's again that balance that we talked about at the start, right? Of understanding that even though you're providing that value, you also need to understand how you will provide it in a way that that also gets you people's eyes and people's attention,
and a way that's sustainable, that you can do repeatedly and consistently.
True. A lot of people ask me, why I don't invite a lot more Indian architects on my channel and explore the vast depths and lengths and breadths of everything that India has to offer in terms of architecture. And this is one of the primary reasons. I've talked about it a little bit in the past, is the fact that a lot of it has to do with the economy aspect of it. An ad viewer in India is 10 times less the amount of money as an ad viewer in the US. And again, these are things that you understand about the business that you're in once you're fully in it. And you understand the kind of content that will, then you create a balance between what would also help you sustain in life, plus provide value. So there are all of these equations that come into the picture, which help you design and define what your content will be about, what your channel will be about, what your pages will be about. There are a lot of factors that come in, and you just navigate them as they come in.
That's amazing. I think it's a great place to kind of draw it to an end, to talk about that balance needed. You need to look at this through the glasses of realism. I think we learned a lot. I personally learned that at the end of the day, content creation is something which it's natural. I think some people will just have the energy, they'll have the passion to be able to do it. And I took a lot of inspiration from you in the fact that you got your qualification, you got fully qualified, you listened to your dad, and I find I relate to this story a lot, by the way. But then you're very focused on the value that you can provide to all the people who follow you. So also I love the fact that we speculated on where content creators or communicators or whatever we call influencers, where we fit in to the whole profession. And I think there's something deeper to also say with obviously I think with my personal circumstances, I am very embedded into the professional world at the moment, so I'm no way able to do full-time content creation, and I don't know if I would want to do full-time content creation, because I'm very much attached to the real world of architecture in buildings as well. So, maybe part 2, we can keep this communication going between us. We'll do another episode. But I just want to finish with you speaking directly to those people who are listening. And I know there's going to be people like that who either came from your channel or they came from kind of, my Instagram or whatever. And I know these people, I know some of them personally, they have the bug. They have the content creation, the communicator, the influencer bug. And they know that they have this intense passion to want to go so deep into the subject matter that they're overflowing with information and they want to share it. What would you advise to kind of aspiring content creators who they have a specific focus, and it might be sustainability and architecture, or it might be it might be parametric technology. They have a passion, but they don't know where to go. They don't know where to start with. Do I do it on Instagram? Do I do it on YouTube? I just want to share. What should they do?
So I would just say this. As we discussed extensively in this episode as well, it is not just about the value that you provide, it is about how you're providing it. As a content creator, one of the biggest challenges that you have is understanding your platform, understanding your audience, and because it evolves. Again, it is not a definite thing. Platforms evolve, audiences evolve, their interests evolve, and it is something that you're constantly struggling with. One of the biggest things that I did was experimentation with my content, not just in what the content is about, but also how the content is being delivered. What are the visuals for the content? I experimented with everything. I still do to this day. You look at a video that I create today, you look at a video I created a month back, it's different because I'm still experimenting with a lot more things. I've learned new things, so I want to try new things, and then I see how that works. So in a lot of ways, it is about experimentation and understanding how can you provide the maximum value that you want to provide, but in a way that will also catch the maximum amount of eyes. And one of the biggest advices that I can give to any budding content creator out there is to be regular at creating content. The social media is rigged. All of them platforms are rigged to sort of keep giving people what they want to see. All of them. And they will only want to see and they will only show you to more people when there's a lot of you to see, so that people might want to keep seeing you more and more and more. And that is why one biggest thing for any content creator or any social media space is about consistency. Is for the entirety of 2019, I created an architecture fact every single day. And that meant a lot of times not going to parties. That meant, I'm not saying do this as religiously as I am, but again, doing it has its results, right? So it is about having that commitment to creating the content, creating and feeding that monster each and every day, because it is a big monster. It needs a lot of food. You need to feed it constantly. While you're feeding it, you can also experiment with your cooking styles, your ingredients, what you're doing. So within that journey of creating so much, you get better in terms of quality, you get better in terms of research, you get better in terms of what you're doing. To me, I think I'm a much better editor than anything else, because I've edited so much. So I think you evolve along your journey, but stay committed, stay consistent, create a schedule and stick to it. A lot of times it might kill you. I'm not saying die. Please take care of yourself. But know that schedules work. Know that if you're going to gym 4 days a week to somebody who's going gym 1 day a week, you will have much more muscle. You will be a bigger, much more stronger person, because that your work brings in results in any field that you're in, not just content creation. So create a schedule and stick to it is one of my biggest advices.
That's amazing. And as a YouTuber, what's the most recent big lesson you've learned about being good on YouTube?
The last one that I learned is, and this is genuinely a practical advice, is I spend a lot of time on my clip arts, the thumbnails that I create, and I create lots of versions for every video. And I keep sort of changing them and sort of experimenting with them, is because, again, strictly speaking from a YouTuber's perspective, your thumbnail is what introduces your video to the world. It is the visual that catches the attention. As we discussed in our talk previously as well, is the fact that as architects, you're communicators. Visual communication is one of the biggest things. Again, on YouTube, visual communication is one of the biggest things ever. So understanding what that visual communication, that first communication would be to people, to catch their eye in those first few seconds that they look at your thumbnail, to make them curious about what is inside. That is something that I've worked with more and more recently.
Okay, so I wanted to quickly ask you about money, and it's
Yeah.
the big question. And I'll be let's be completely transparent. I think the audience will appreciate that. So
Yeah.
I personally, I just hit monetization on YouTube maybe like a week ago.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing for me, because I remember thinking, okay, I want to have a very achievable goal. I set my targets, how I can reach monetization based on experts. You know, there's all sorts of people telling you how to do it, and consistency, focus, and, you know, being very careful with your thumbnails and titles. Those things are the key things, right? So at the moment, I'm earning like £1 a day, which I'm very happy about because I think by my calculation, it was something like I'm earning like 3 pence every hour. So technically I'm earning money in my sleep or something. Anyway, the question is for you, as somebody who has, you know, almost 100K subscribers, what are you earning?
So my earnings, like monthly earnings from YouTube, range from wait, I need to convert them to dollars.
You tell me, I'll do it.
So it ranges from between 20 to 60,000 at the moment, rupees.
Rupees, so 20,
which I think is 300 to.
Okay, so that's £400 on average a month.
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy. So, you know, we talk about like a annual or bonus, people doing bonus salary. Sometimes people are happy with like 10% bonus on the salary. So by this calculation, £400 a month would be £4,800 a year.
But again, that is not it fluctuates every month. It fluctuates depending on where your video is being viewed. It fluctuates, depends on how much views you're getting. It fluctuates, depends on what are the ad rates. During the holidays, the ad rates are much higher.
Really?
During some months, the ad rates are much lower. So there are all of these aspects that come into the picture to determine what would be your earning for the month.
Okay, but like £4,800 a year is like, that is a sizable chunk. You know, I think about it in this way, like if I was working a full-time job, you know, and then you got this bonus of like £4,800, that's almost like a part-time salary. So
yeah,
that's amazing. So what about the other, because you must have some other sources of income.
Yeah, so right now I have it's the AdSense. Then I get some income from Patreon, but that's like $30 a month at the moment. Then I have like Instagram advertisements. Obviously, people, once you have a channel and a platform that come to you, like people come to me for YouTube and Instagram advertisements. So then creating ads for them, putting their things inside my videos. So there's that.
That's the most, isn't it? When people come to you separately, they can offer quite big amounts.
They do offer quite big amounts, but also it doesn't happen as frequently because I don't as frequently work with a lot of people who want to advertise. I work with people who whose things I actually like. Right. There are loads of people who are willing to offer me money to sort of. There was somebody who would message me on Instagram, I want to buy your Instagram handle. I'm like, excuse me.
How much did he offer?
I don't know how much. I didn't even ask how much he was offering. I was like, I'm not giving it.
Oh, I would have asked. What if it was £1 million?
Yeah.
Would you sell it for £1 million?
Just my Instagram, sure. I still have my YouTube. I create another Instagram.
Okay, so yeah, so money is actually a funny question. I should sit up. I shouldn't slouch. Money is a funny question because you're right. You know, people think that YouTubers earn insane amounts of money. I mean, I'm earning like £60 a month, if that. No, like £30 a month. So people at the moment, they think I earn like thousands. I'm like, no, why do you think I earn thousands? So it's like, it's a difficult thing to navigate, isn't it? To think about the
Yeah.
returns and think about the amount of effort and time that goes into it. What keeps you going? Is it in the money conversation?
So, in that aspect, if you really want to do what you're doing, you also have to find ways to earn while you're doing what you're doing. And that is why when earlier I used to actively go to people to like, I will advertise for you if you want. Uh, so there was that when my YouTube income wasn't enough. I think right now also it's good as a uh, part-time income, and that is why I still do a lot of things to earn the money. I also started some workshops that I know about the things that I am good at and I can provide value at. So providing those workshops to people, affiliate courses. And I know all of those courses that I promote, they're really good. I know the people, I know the kind of courses that they provide. I know it is all good and they would actually provide value to people. So diversifying your income sources, and that is why I have the second channel now, which I am quickly running towards monetization again. And I'm waiting to reach the same monetization eligibility criteria on Facebook, and I'm waiting for Instagram monetization to start, because again, I have a lot of content already ready, which I know I can monetize at various places. So as a content creator, you not only juggle with everything else that you're juggling with and understanding audiences and understanding, experimenting with different things, you're also experimenting with your revenue sources. You're also understanding where your revenue comes from, how much, in what months does it vary. So you need to understand, there are also it'll be half the month is gone, I understand my earning is low, I know my next video needs to be something that'll give in crazy views so that my money comes back to that level for that month, otherwise it won't. So those decisions then also come into the picture.
So let's look at your most watched video.
Yes, which is Dinara Casco's.
So this is from architect to pastry designer in conversation with Dinara Casco. So this one's almost a million. This is like 680,000 views. What made this video? Can you kind of unpack why this video did so well, from the thumbnail to the content to the title to the timing? What was it?
So I'll tell you what made it go that viral. One, the thumbnail. Two, as you hover over it and you see her little daughter.
Really?
And that, yeah. And one thing is, I don't decide what comes up here, like YouTube does. So like YouTube looks at what would people, and this is not what my thing starts from. This is, as you can see, in the middle of my video. So YouTube decides what people would love to watch, and they start from that particular, this 2-3 seconds of video that you see is from that particular spot. And that is why this video has the amount of views that it has. It doesn't have as high as audience retention as my other videos, but it has the highest number of views because of these.
Wow. It's really crazy because I didn't know this played a factor, and I didn't know YouTube
This plays a huge factor.
That's crazy.
Also, I'll tell you, this earned a fraction of what the Mariana video earned, much more money than Dinara's video, even though it's like double the views, more than double the views.
Wow.
The money Mariana's video earned was, I think, almost 5 times more.
Whoa. So how much did you get from Mariana?
Last I checked, it was
I'll do the calculation.
80 to 85,000 rupees.
Whoa.
85 or 90.
So that's like almost £1,000 just from one video.
Exactly. I mean, again, but it's spread through the months that it's spread through.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a year old.
Yeah. So like, I watched the video. It's incredibly impressive. And it's just a shock to me, the fact that you can So you can't actually decide what plays in this little clip.
YouTube decides. And YouTube decides also, I think it's also not just based on what's good in the video, but what you would engage with more.
But like, it's crazy because this video it's not showing it. So I'm on my channel now and I'm looking at it and I hover my mouse over it and it's not showing any like
maybe YouTube
clips.
hasn't made one for it yet, because it takes a
Maybe,
little while to generate that one particular thing that will make people want to watch more.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy is this is the video I did not expect to do well, but it's already like, especially viewer engagement time, it's doing like the best.
Yeah.
And I have no way of kind of predicting these things. How do you, can you predict if a video is going to do well? Because it's so relative, isn't it, to everyone?
You can try and predict it. Sometimes my predictions are correct, sometimes they're not. But again, as I said, and that is why I gave the advice of the thumbnails that you put in, is again, that's the first visual communication. And if that makes people curious enough to watch your video, they surely will click on it. The highest I have had is, I think, the Squid Game video.
Really?
Yeah.
This one?
Yes.
Wow.
People have watched this for the maximum amount of time.
So what was it about this video? Because I think I watched a little bit of it. What was it about this video which really made it? And look, we're going to make you earn some money. You ready? I'll click this ad for you.
My mom does this.
Yeah, I heard her say that. And I'm going to watch it all the way just for you, bro.
Thank you.
So yeah, tell me.
I'll tell you. The reason that this did as well as it did is because of the subject matter. Is because people, and I'm saying this again, it's not just architects who watch this video, it is people in general who watch this video, people who are nothing to do with architecture industry as much. And because Squid Game is such a popular it is such a popular show all over the world still at this point. And that is why the duration for this is the highest, is because people want to know what is going on behind the sets.
Right. So you gave an analogy of the architect. You gave a kind of a breakdown of the architectural aspects of this movie.
So I talked about each and every set. I talked about what went on into making it, which was my favorite. What is CGI, what is not. So I talked about these aspects in the whole thing.
And how long did it take you to plan this video and execute it?
3 days.
Because I suppose my question is, the videos that you've felt have done the best engagement wise, have they been the videos that you've also spent the most amount of time and effort curating?
No. So a lot of videos that I put a lot of effort on do not do that well. Over time, they start maybe getting a little bit more attention. I can predict a lot of times when some subject matter or something would just do better. A lot of the conversations that I do with people are not videos that take me a lot of time. I just have to talk to you, ask questions, and edit it. It is not something that requires a lot of my attention as to what will go, how will the story go forward, what will I put here, what will I put there. Those are not things that I have to think about. So they're much faster and they get a lot of views because of the value that they're providing.
So what's the secret, if there is a secret? Is it, because from what I'm hearing, is it that you have to respond to the market, you have to respond to the trends, and you have to do it in a way that you're contributing something of new value? Because that's what this is how I would describe what you've done here. Because Squid Game is trending right now, and you provided a novel piece of information by analyzing the architectural aspect. So you hit your niche market as well, but you're doing something, you're basically contributing new information.
Yeah. So that particular approach works here, right? Then there are what do you say? Then there are different kind of videos. Again, the Mariana video was not, ZHA has been around for a lot of time. It was not trending at the moment when I put the Mariana video out, or Dinara's video for that matter. But so it works differently with different videos. You have to look at each again, it's not easy predicting how it will go, but you have to look at each video and what topic you're thinking about individually, and consciously think about each video as you go.
It's amazing, man. I really appreciate you taking the time, and you know, as I said before, I think I learned a lot. Hopefully people will also get a lot from this episode, and those who are inspired to who have the creator bug, they will have, you know, all the inspiration to get their journeys going now.
I hope so too.
And look, it's been a pleasure to have you, and
It's been a pleasure to be here, man.
Did you enjoy the talk?
Yeah, a lot.
Brilliant. All right, guys. Well, you know, I'll see you guys on the next episode.